I was thinking, is there a video to make about the Ottawa Senators and how bad they were this series? Honestly, from my perspective, probably not. And I know that's kind of a bad take because I predicted the Sens to make the second round. Yeah, my bracket's cooked, man. I had the Sens and the Penguins in round 2. But one of them got swept, and the other is on the cusp of getting swept. We'll see whether or not that actually goes down. But in this video, we are talking more about the Vancouver Canucks instead, because there was some recently revealed info about how Vancouver could have avoided a significant penalty over the last few years. It comes to us in the form of Patrick Johnston's newest article on theprovince.com. Canucks. Roberto Luongo would be a fun GM choice, but don't hold your breath. You can pretty much infer what it is this article is talking about here. Johnston is writing about Roberto Luongo, potential Vancouver Canucks GM candidate, and a name that's been floated around much to the delight of Canucks fans. Oh, it would be cool if Stanley Cup champion executive Roberto Luongo were to find himself back in Vancouver after being a legend in the Canucks organization as a player. It would be kind of poetic in a way. Luongo was a legend for both Florida and Vancouver as a player. He'd win a Stanley Cup as an executive on Florida. Why not go out there and try to do the same in Vancouver, also as an executive? But with that said, there are a number of logical and probably other issues that get in the way of Bobby Lou suiting up for the Canucks once again, this time in a managerial role. But that's not really what this video is about. You see, there was a little comment made in this piece that I thought was super interesting. It was posted out there by Adam Kierszenblat. Another missed opportunity by the Vancouver Canucks, as pointed out in the article. It talks about the relationship and one of the points of weirdness between Luongo and the Canucks. When Roberto Luongo decided he didn't want to play anymore in 2019, his agent Pat Brisson called up the Canucks and urged them trade for the corpse of Luongo's contract. Luongo would happily spend 3 years in LTIR, he vowed. But the Canucks never moved to trade him, which was odd, given that the cap recapture penalty the league forced on the Panthers and the Canucks as a result of his official retirement came with a much bigger cap charge than the remaining 3 years of Luongo's official cap hit. And that is quite the story here. The Vancouver Canucks, if you had missed it from all those years ago, ended up getting a significant chunk of cap taken away from their spending power when Roberto Luongo retired. There's a Puckpedia article about it. It's pretty good, and I will leave a link in the description if you want to go out there and read it. When Roberto Luongo retired, it triggered a cap recapture penalty as outlined in CBA Section 50.5, page 266. The recapture is calculated by comparing the total amount paid versus the total cap hit over the course of the contract until the retirement. In Luongo's case, he had been paid $60.382 million, and his cap hit has been $5.33 for 9 years. That difference of $12.382 million is the recapture penalty that needs to be charged to teams. The article then goes over all the intricacies about Vancouver and Florida, but skipping to the end here, Vancouver's total recapture benefit over the contract is $9 million. Since he has 3 years remaining on his contract, that total is divided by 3. Therefore, Vancouver's cap charge over the next 3 years is $3.03 million a year. This dude ended up costing Vancouver $3.0 million a year for 3 seasons, and he wasn't even playing for them. If he had just been traded back to the Canucks, if the Canucks said, okay, yeah, sure, we'll trade back for Luongo's contract and just put it on the LTIR the entire time, then they wouldn't have had to deal with this recapture penalty. they would have just been able to cruise on by with a bunch of extra room on their salary cap due to the LTIR. They could have maybe made a trade for another guy to help them out in 2021, something like that, and they would have been in a pretty good spot to do some more work. There are a number of folks going out there in the replies of this tweet over here saying, hey, like, maybe there's an idea that says that Florida would have had too high of an asking price if the Panthers knew that Vancouver was going to be in danger because of this cap recapture penalty. Maybe they could up the price on Luongo and make it very difficult for the Canucks to make it work. But honestly, it wouldn't have been productive to do that because the Vancouver Canucks are not the only team that got a recapture penalty. Florida also got a $1 million charge per season over the next 3 years from Luongo retiring. The Panthers had something to gain too. Whether or not Roberto Luongo may have debated Florida in a way, let's say he told his agent, hey, I'm thinking of retiring. And maybe he told the agent, I'm okay with going on the LTIR, whether I'm in Vancouver or whether I'm in Florida. But maybe something changed. Maybe one day Roberto Luongo was just like, nah, screw it. I'm going to retire. I'm done. Which ended up resulting in the cap recapture penalty in the first place. Who's to say Roberto Luongo may not have retired should he have gotten traded to Vancouver too? Is it a guarantee that he would have been on the LTIR the entire time? Did he not make any similar guarantees to Florida? Or was this a moment of ignorance? Did he and the agent just not realize that there would have been a cap recapture penalty if he had retired in general to begin with? But that's besides the point. It's all hypothetical after all. It is written out here that the Vancouver Canucks were notified about the possibility of a recapture penalty being applied to them, and that in order to avoid it, they should have just traded for Luongo's contract. Imagine that, eh? The guy would have been able to come back to Vancouver in spirit. He would have just been on the LTIR the entire time. Vancouver would have had that bubble playoff run, and they still would have had extra cap space to use. I mean, it would have been a win-win-win for everybody involved. Florida gets out of that $1 million penalty. Vancouver gets out of the $3 million penalty. They would have been able to put that contract on LTIR, whether it's ownership or management that just didn't want to spend the extra money. It's so bizarre to me considering Vancouver's liberal usage of LTIR over the next few years with guys like Tucker Poolman and whatnot. So, Roberto Luongo, this crisis could have been averted, but it wasn't. The Vancouver Canucks just decided to ignore all signals of danger and just drive headfirst into the storm. They could have gotten Roberto Luongo back and they would have been seen as heroes, man. Not only would that have been seen as a pretty fun move, but also if it came out later that, oh, if the Canucks didn't trade for Luongo, he would have retired in Florida, and then he would have been subject to a cap recapture penalty, and Vancouver would have had $3 million in cap space taken away from them over the next 3 years. That would have been seen as an even better move. Like, oh, wow, thank goodness they decided to avoid this big, intricate, damaging amount to their cap because they traded for this guy. That's a great deal. But no. Either the price was too high or Vancouver was just too cheap. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Roberto Luongo thing coming back to haunt the Vancouver Canucks in the ways that it did. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.